So what I'm going to do now is plug in my SATA cables to the hard drives. So there's one, and I'll just leave this side hanging for now. Here's two, and here's where having a real Mac comes in handy, because this is going to sort of look like some spaghetti going on here, and really I don't mind that much, but a lot of people do, especially if you're professional. You want to be able to just swap in hard drives like it's nothing. So this does take some more labor than that. So, but you know me, I'm a 20-year-old kid. I like tinkering around inside of a computer. So really, it's not a big deal for me. So if you're going to be doing something like this, the outside does look great, but if you're one of those people that your inside has to look perfect, then I do not recommend this. Just saying that right now. And as you guys can see, these hard drive cages do have little holes in them, so I'm going to use that to sort of manage my cables like the best that I can. So what I'm going to do with my solid state drive down here, I'm going to get sort of creative with the cable management. I'm going to take it and sort of wrap it up around, and from there this will go into my SATA controller. So I'm going to keep it as clean as I possibly can. So for now this will work. I can always adjust it later once I know how much room I have to work with once all my hardware is inside of the case. Alright, so as you can see, I've actually unplugged these two hard drives, and that's because I think I found a better way to manage my cables. I'm going to use these little holes. You could probably just see them in the shot here. There are holes in the side and at the bottom, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my SATA cable and sort of thread it through that hole in the side. Hopefully I can get it out here like so. And now what I'm simply going to do is plug it into the hard drive. And now I have something that looks something like this. And so now that looks a lot neater than having it all just a mess out here. So I can just do something like that, and from there plug it into the SATA. Alright, so I'm going to do the same thing with my next drive. So I'm going to take it like this, thread it through. Sorry for all the metal clanking around. And so up like this. And so now I have these two for my two hard drives. So I'm going to plug these into the motherboard now. Trying not to put too much tension on where it plugs in, otherwise the cable will break. That has happened in the past. Once again, sorry for all that metal clanking around. I'm going to try to put this somewhere where that won't happen. Alright, so we've got that one in. Now we'll take the second one and do something similar. Actually, what I could do is just try to hide as much of the cable as I can back in here, and then just have it come out like this. So that worked out pretty well. And there's also not much tension on that, which is great. So now I'm going to come to my SATA controller card. Hopefully you can see that right above my graphics card. And it is now in. Now with this card, I do have two fans on top, as you can see, so I really have to be careful and make sure that that cable will not fall and hit these fans, because then it would probably damage the cable, make some funky noises, and just not be good for my fans. So I'm going to sort of try to get as much tension as I can out over here so that doesn't hit. Now once again, this is where paying for Apple engineering really comes in handy. But I do think I'll be fine. It would take a lot of pressure for that cable to fall. I'd have to, drop the computer or something in order for the tension over here to loosen up. So I do think that I will be perfectly fine. But so that's how I'm going to wire my hard drives for now, at least until I can come up with what looks to be a nicer way. But honestly, this is not too bad. Next up is the optical drive. So I have mine right here. It's HP, just a DVD burner. I don't really have any use for Blu-ray or anything yet, so I haven't made the jump to Blu-ray. However, the way this mounts in here, you can sort of see these little cutouts. I'll go ahead and zoom into that for you guys. So as you can see, there is room there. They are a little bit loose up top. So I'm just simply going to take this and slide it in like so. And now that it's in, I'm going to take the screws and just tighten it in like so. Really not too hard of a process, but in some cases I've read that the standard drives like this, they will actually not be tall enough, and so when you go to open your drive, the little slot opener on the front here, the drive will be too low and it won't come out all the way. So some of you guys might, if you decide to do this, you might need to get like a little spacer between here and here just to raise it up maybe like a quarter of an inch or so, maybe even less, and then that should work fine for you. Alright, so once again, bringing up cable management, I'm going to take my SATA cable, and back behind this shelf, there is space, so I'm going to take the cable up like so, and just sort of wrap it around. This is where having round SATA cables really helps, because these don't want to, like, you know, bend like this. It just doesn't want to do it. So having round SATA cables really would help. I'm going to look into investing in some of those, but I'm just going to go ahead and plug this into the optical drive like that. And now with this, I'll just think of something to do with the rest of the cable, but coming down here now, I'm going to plug it in right to the motherboard. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this front panel I/O working. In case you guys don't know, on the front of the PowerMac G5, there's a headphone jack, a power LED, a power switch, a FireWire, and a USB port, all of which will not work if you don't have something that looks a little bit like this. I got this from the Insanely Mac forums for about $40. I had to have someone make it for me, and the reason for this is because, hopefully this will focus for you guys, Apple uses a proprietary 18-pin connector, of which cannot be found on today's motherboards. I think it's only found on their motherboards. I don't think anyone else even uses it. So what someone has to do is they have to actually convert all the pins that control everything into standard ATX ones. So this is like the original cable from the G5, and someone modify it into standard ATX connection pins. So what we have to do is put this, the 18 pin, into the front I/O, and then put all these where they need to go. Alrighty, so hopefully you guys can see this. It's probably not the best shot in the world, but just due to the lighting in my room, I really can't do much better right now. But so I'm going to go ahead and plug that in right there. 18 pin connector is now in. So the connections we got here are USB, FireWire, audio, power switch, and power LED. So all these will fit into the according spots on the motherboard. So the first thing we'll start off with is, why not, the USB. So the USB, on my motherboard rather, the USB is located right up here at the bottom of the motherboard, but in this case, you know, the top of the case. So you just look for the USB, and you'll notice that it looks like it's a 10 pin, really a 9 because there's one missing, but you only need one row of them. So I know that's not going to focus because I'm zoomed in so far, but I'm going to show this the best that I can. And so once again, with the cable management in mind, I'm going to take this and thread it underneath and have it come up in the back. And now we're going to go ahead and zoom into that USB port, or that header on the motherboard, really, not necessarily a port, and we're going to install it. Hopefully my hand's not completely in the way, but that's now in, so the USB on the front will now work. So the next one we're going to do, we might as well do FireWire since it's in the next location over, which is right there. That's the FireWire. So once again, cable management, taking it underneath, bringing it up through, and look for the one pin that's missing. FireWire is now in. Now keeping up here, we need the power LED and the power switch. Now the person that made this cable was nice enough to label these as such. Try to zoom out so this will focus. This has a little white dot on it, just some paint. That resembles the actual switch. So on my motherboard, the power switch is actually this red one here, and I know this is about as close as I'll be able to get. So I'm just going to go ahead and do this, and I'll show you guys when it's done. Alright, so I'm just going to freehand this. This is really the only way I can get in. This up here is where I just plugged in the two headers to the motherboard. So the one on the left is the power switch, and the one on the right here, that's the power LED. So now that my power switch will work, I can just hit the power switch just like a normal PowerMac G5, and the computer will turn on. Moving over just a little bit, we have that USB that I plugged in. Note the bottom headers are not filled. That is fine. That's how it's supposed to be. Moving over here, we now have FireWire. And the last one we need is all the way down here, at least on my motherboard, and it's that green pin right there. You can see it says F audio. So that's where the audio is going to go. Alright, so here's the last audio cable. So I'm going to go and just plug this in. You're probably going to get a nice arm cam right here, but it's really the only way I can do this. Alright, so I've lined up the cable, given it one last push, and the cable is now in. Now the only bad thing about this cable is that it's horrible for cable management, because as you can see, a lot of the headers on the motherboard are above the graphics card, whereas just this one for the headphone jack is below. So really all you can do is sort of, tuck it aside. but there's still like a mass of cables in here. So it's not the best, but the cable is the only way to get the front ports to work, which I do use constantly on a day-to-day basis. So I need to have those front ports working. So this is the only way to do it, but really it's not too bad.